everybody, Dr. Dane here, and we are talking about prediabetes and diabetes. And I want to ask you a question. How do you know if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic? How would you know? Maybe you are right now sitting here watching this video. You're diabetic and you don't know about it. Prediabetes and diabetes generally in its early stages don't have symptomatic problems. So it's not like you get a pain or a light goes off in your body that you know that you're pre-diabetic or trending towards being diabetic. So the way that we diagnose prediabetes and diabetes in our practice is through lab work, right? So a lot of people are eating excessive carbohydrates, and eventually that's going to take its toll on the body, and you will become pre-diabetic or diabetic. But to really know, we need a blood test, and the classic diabetic blood test is something called hemoglobin A1C. And what the heck is that? Well, sugar in the body does damage. Your body's really smart. It will start attaching the sugar to proteins. And one of the proteins that it attaches sugar to get it out of the bloodstream, so to speak, or keep it from crossing into the brain where it can do damage, is to the hemoglobin portion of your red blood cell. Hence the title hemoglobin A1C. It's a sugar molecule that's attached to your red blood cells. And the higher percentage of red blood cells that have a sugar molecule attached to them, the higher your A1C. So anybody that has an A1C over 5.7 is classically defined as somebody who's pre-diabetic. Anybody who has an A1C over 6.5 is diagnosed with full-blown diabetes. You should know what your A1C is. I like to see my patients have an A1C at 5 or less. That's somebody who's really not getting a lot of refined grains or carbohydrates or sugars in their diet at all. So that's the first thing. The second thing is your insulin. And this is something that a lot of doctors don't do. They don't test your fasting insulin. In our practice, we do. And let me give you an example. I had a patient last week who came in. His blood sugar was completely normal. It was 77, which is actually good. So if he went to his doctor, the doctor said, your blood sugar is great, right? But when I looked at his insulin was 5 times, his insulin was 25. I like to see insulin around 5. So because he was young, he was in his early 30s, his body was doing what it needed to do to keep up with all that sugar. But I guarantee eventually that pancreas is going to crash because there's so much demand on it, and that person's going to become diabetic very quick. So we want to take the stress off of that pancreas, and the way we know he's eating too much sugar is his triglycerides were high and his insulin was high. And as soon as I saw that, we had a conversation about that and it made complete sense. But had I not looked at his insulin, I wouldn't know he was headed towards a real problem. So I would highly encourage you to get these tests done, not just your fasting glucose, which is a common test, but you want to get your A1C done, and you also want to get your fasting insulin done at your doctor's office, or you can come to our office. We run these tests normally and routinely on a regular basis. So for more information on this, go to our website, WS Centers, really read the blog and understand these tests, because again, you need to know if you have prediabetes or diabetes. You want to catch it early before it really starts to ravish your body. This is Dr. Dane Donahue with Wellness Solution Centers.